With Bell Atlantic Mobile, you can make important calls from just about everywhere, like the "I'm working late" call or the "I'm on my way" call. Because at Bell Atlantic Mobile, everything we do is for one reason. That moment when you make the "my car won't start" call. Are you all right?
I'm okay, Dad. But hurry.
Your call goes through. A cell phone is only as good as the network it's on. Choose Bell Atlantic Mobile.
Sports with George Michael, working for you.
Tonight, through the use of the sports machine, interleague play in baseball provides plenty of excitement in Chicago. Real quiet denied a spot at the Belmont Stakes. How will racing history treat his name? What's going to happen with the big unit, Randy Johnson in Seattle? The answer tonight in Rumorville. I'm George Michael. Tonight we go to the comeback trail for the man who beat Mike Tyson. It's Buster Douglas on the road tonight on the Sports Machine. Do you realize that no team in NBA history has won the middle 3 games at home of these finals? Well, from the way the Chicago Bulls played tonight, they might be the first. The Jazz, after a quick start, simply collapsed. The Bulls crushed the Jazz 96-54. That gives them a 2-game-to-1 lead in the finals. The Jazz, folks, set a new record for futility by scoring the fewest points ever in an NBA game. Let me take you to the United Center. You had to see it to believe it. The Jazz got off to a great start. You go to the mailman, Karl Malone. Malone on the reverse, then the drive inside. Malone got his first 7 shots. He was 7 for 7. He scored the first 10 points the Jazz got in the game as they led 10-5, and then the Bulls started to run. The Bulls on the run, Michael Jordan, the Tony Kukoc, who will give to Luke Longley. Backdoor to Michael Jordan despite the double team. He scores. Jordan had only 22 points, but he really didn't need a whole lot more. The Bulls led 49-31 at the half, and Jerry Sloan didn't like what he was seeing. He didn't like it up till now. He'd hate this one. The shot of the game. Michael Jordan leaves Hornacek, leaves him behind. He drives inside. He is clobbered by Greg Ostertag and still hits the reverse layup. Did I say 22? Make it 24 points for Michael. I forgot those two, Michael. I owe you 2. It was that kind of game. To show you what it was, here's how routes occur. Brian Russell is blocked by Scott Burrell. Ron Harper over his shoulder to Scott Burrell. Burrell drives and scores. The Bulls win game 3 from the Jazz, 96-54. That's a 42-point difference. The American League and the National League collide head-on. Interleague play is back again. And here's tonight's Nicoderm trivia question. What rookie holds the record for the most points scored in an NBA Finals game?
Mood for love, simply because you're near me.
The new Accord V6 Coupe from Honda. What'll it do to you?
Attention passengers. Our bingo tournament is starting in 5 minutes on the captain's deck. Also on the deck, today's craft is pipe cleaner off the window.
If you ask us, it just tastes better.
You've got a house, which also means you've got a permanent license to worry. Wouldn't it be nice to make one part of your house worry-proof? Well, you can start with your deck and Thompson's Wood Protector. It not only has our legendary waterproofing, It resists graying from the sun and prevents mildew discoloration. Try Thompson's Wood Protector in clear and 3 sheer colors.
And now, Keith Mills with Sunday's Sports Extra.
The man of the moment, the man of the day, none other than Eddie Murray.
And a day, Eddie Murray, 12 and a half years in Orioles, said he will never, ever forget. How can you blame him? Welcome back, everybody. The Orioles lost 9-0 to the Braves today as Greg Maddux tossed a 4-hit shutout. But even the Braves ace tipped his cap to future Hall of Famer Eddie Murray. Eddie had his number 33 jersey formally retired today. And to say it was an emotional Sunday afternoon at Camden Yards would not do this story justice.
That's right there with opening day in 1977. I mean, that was about as happy you or, let's say, as nervous you would get me playing the game of baseball was probably that opening day, and it really wasn't that nervous, but it was just something I'll always remember that, and I always remember the first home run, believe it or not.
I hope you stick around the game for as long as you want to, and here in Baltimore we've got a great tradition now with Earl Weaver and Jim Palmer and Frank Robinson, and to have you join us, I'm really excited about it.
Being up there on the platform and looking at the talent I had, I got to feel like the luckiest man in the world to have managed people like Eddie Murray and Frank and Brooks and Palmer. The Orioles just seem to come up with player after player after player, but the guys that were up there are something special.
We talk so much about the Oriole way here in Baltimore, and it wasn't that complex, and it still isn't. You sign talented players, you teach them how to play the game, you teach them about teamwork, and then you teach them to have fun. Eddie always was able to do that.
You know, it's one of those guys that you tell your kids you faced. You know, I got to face Eddie Murray in the World Series. That's a thrill for me, and that's how I looked at it, you know. He's been great for baseball. He's, you know, he played the game right.
Eddie Murray arrived here knowing how to play the game, and that was give 100%, and play as hard as you could play at all times. The numbers speak for themselves, but Eddie was more than just about numbers.
I'd like to say congratulations. Eddie was a great teammate, a great friend, and I wish that everybody could know him the way that I do.
Probably as time goes on, he'll become more and more popular, and people probably see, I guess, the person that we see as his teammate.
No Oriole other than Eddie Murray shall ever wear number 33 again.
All it takes is hard work and perseverance, and in fact, I'm just so happy for Eddie. You know, he's been a good brother and a friend and just a great individual. I'm just proud of it.
And I look over and here comes that car out, and that was special. I mean, I don't know, sometimes it's tough to have things done for you. And, you know, Angelos has done some, you know, I think some great things for me, and, you know, you just can't say enough about him.
That was one of my heroes, you know, one of my idols growing up. I grew up, you know, loving Cal Ripken and Eddie Murray, both of them. And, you know, that's one of the few times I remember that I actually had, like, some water in my eyes, you know, watching that. I think you're not human if you don't.
Didn't think it could be done, but it's been done. Cheers, staff. I tell you, everybody here, you can make me really, really feel special today.
It was a little more moving than I thought. You know, I never thought I would get caught up in that.
We came from an environment where, I mean, it was a lot of we and us in that house, and it's very tough to stand here as an I, you know.
It's beyond description, you know. It's a dream that
these 5 boys in the family had, and we were lucky enough to have one to make it and make it all the way. And when you talk about the things of the day, he represented. It's the best thing in the world.
I'm talking about lots of words. All I can say is that I love you. Let's get on with the ball game. Thank you.
Tip of the hat for Eddie Murray and a ride in his brand new Corvette, and a personal thanks to Joe Hammond and Paul Jaffe for their extraordinary work in putting this piece together. Future Hall of Famer Eddie Murray. Ah, man, how good was that? Eddie never sought out the TV cameras or the microphones or the headlines, but he drove in runs, led by example, and helped the Orioles sustain a level of excellence that was Orioles baseball. Brooks, Frank, Cal, Jim Palmer, Eddie Murray. 3 are in Cooperstown. 2 more are on their way, and to think we had the pleasure of watching them all play here in Baltimore. Man, let's not be too selfish about baseball in Baltimore. Greg Maddux is headed to Cooperstown. He tossed a 4-hit shutout today against the Orioles. The Braves of the 90s, very similar to the Orioles of the 60s, 70s, early 80s, pitching, defense, and power. Denny Nagle, a huge part of that Braves success. Denny went to Arundel High in Gambrills Friday night, made his first regular season appearance ever at Camden Yards, and it was special.
I told everybody the other night, though, I was like, you know, I pitched in a couple All-Star games now, a couple World Series games, you know, NLCS, whatever you name it, and that's one of the most nervous times I've experienced in a ball game. So it was definitely some mixed emotions, and you know, I'm glad I was able to bounce back and finish strong. Unfortunately, we didn't win the game.
But Denny's won 7 this year. He's also a former Crown All-Star baseball player. The Crown game was played after the Orioles-Braves game today. We'll show you highlights of that later. When we come back, Scott Garceau with Ravens running back Roosevelt Potts, and Paul Baker and Linda Cacavala join us live to talk hoops. Stay with us.
All daddies go to the daddy store. And Super Dad flies around and gets super brains for computers and software and music.
Where daddies go for super stuff. Best Buy. Now that's a great idea.
And a spaceship comes down, and the alligators get out, and they all eat hot dogs, and then
Here in America, home means different things to different people. But we're pretty much agreed on what it means to own a home. It has something to do with stronger communities, safer streets, better schools, and the hopes and dreams that America was built on. So whatever home means, one thing's certain, it's a lot more than just 4 walls and a roof. For a free guide that can help you on the path to home ownership, call the Fannie Mae Foundation.
In the world of golf, it was a very windy day at the Kemper Open, but apparently the wind was blowing Stuart Appleby's way. The 27-year-old Australian native who had missed the cut in half of his 14 starts this year, he captures the Kemper Open for his 2nd PGA Tour victory. Let's take you out to Potomac, Maryland. First of all, Fred Funk, you know, led the first 3 rounds, but he struggled. I mean, he struggled today. Here on number 7. This is when you know the course devils are going to get you. And no matter how much he puts on it, it just won't go. Stops on the edge. Fred Funk shot a 77 today, ended up tied for 3rd, 4 shots back. This is Stuart Appleby on number 14, looking at a 15-foot birdie putt. And he gets it to drop. Stuart Appleby would beat Scott Hoch by 1 stroke for the championship. We're in St. Louis, the LPGA Michelob Classic. That may be the best seat in the house. I mean, you have an unobstructed view, right? This is Annika Sorenstam on 18. She trails at this point by 1 stroke on 18. But she puts this approach to within 1 foot. That forces a tie. She wins in the playoff with Donna Andrews. Annika Sorenstam has won in St. Louis 3 of the last 4 years. Hey, you know, there have been a lot of rumors about the Seattle Mariners trading Randy Johnson. Then they said, hey, we're not going to do it. Does that mean that Johnson is headed for free agency? In this week's edition of Rogaine's Rumorville, brought to you by the new Rogaine, Howard Eskin brings us up to date on Randy Johnson of the Mariners. Howard?
George, as we have seen in baseball, it's a different era when it comes to trades. It's not about improving the current team, it's about signability. Now that brings us to the Seattle pitcher, Randy Johnson. The Mariners have publicly said he is no longer on the open market. Now, I hear that is far from reality. What I have heard is that Seattle GM Woody Woodward had deals with the LA Dodgers and Cleveland
But Randy Johnson wanted far too much for a new contract from any team that acquires him. Johnson's contract demands, how about 5 years, $35 million, and that's for a pitcher 35 years of age. And Seattle has no chance of re-signing Johnson. Seattle knows they have to, however, trade Johnson sometime in the next month. The NBA college draft is coming up on June 24th, and the pickings get slimmer every year. Never do the top players show up anymore at the pre-draft camps, and I hear that may now be hurting at least 2 of what once was top 5 picks. The big man out of Kansas, Rafe LaFrentz, is sliding, maybe out of the top 5, once considered no worse than number 3 in the draft. I also hear North Carolina's Antoine Jamison may slide as far as 8 in the draft. Some initially thought he would go no worse than 4. Now, these camps could have helped in those 2 cases. From Rumorville for the Sports Machine, I'm Howard Eskin.
All right, Howard. A wild day of racing at the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, the race had to be started twice because of accidents. Michael Schumacher avoids most of the damage. He takes the checkered flag for his 30th career victory. Let's go to Montreal. We're on the very first lap. I mean, this is right after we get started. Watch the center of your screen, the car in blue. That'll be Alexander Wirtz, who will get sideways right there, then gets up in the air, is on his side and goes over, then hits a bump and goes over 1, 2, 3 rollovers. But Wirtz would get another car and would finish 4th in the race. Well, the second restart out of the first turn, Jarno Trulli will end up going up on top of another car. Jarno Trulli coming behind right here, Trulli. Now watch carefully in the blue car. He'll end up getting up on another car on top of John Alesi. He's up on top. Alesi lost 2 cars in this race. By the way, boy, you talk about a rough afternoon. That was off of the second start. At the finish line, this man, Michael Schumacher, wins the Canadian Grand Prix, his 3rd Canadian championship. Congratulations, Michael. Let's talk horse racing for a minute. Real Quiet got real close, but a Triple Crown winner after 20 years was not to be. Victory Gallop, as you know, took the 130th running of the Belmont Stakes in a photo finish. For the trainer, Bob Baffert, this is 2 years in a row that it's happened to him. Let's go up to Belmont, New York, and see what happened. It's the 130th running of the Belmont Stakes in Belmont, New York. Real Quiet is the horse that everybody's watching. Real Quiet has a huge lead. But at the last moment, here comes Victory Gallop. Victory Gallop on the outside would come all the way to make it real close at the finish. Real close, in fact, so that by a nose, it would be Victory Gallop. Real Quiet trainer Bob Baffert that had this happen to him last year. Remember, he had Silver Charm, who won the Derby and the Preakness and then lost the Belmont. This year, he has Real Quiet. Again, Real Quiet won the first 2 and lost the Belmont.
Well, last year I was more disappointed because this year we got beat, you know, fair and square. Last year, Silver Charm never saw that horse. I was so, I was really, you know, just, that's why I was really upset last year. And so this year it was just a matter of, you know, you get beat, you got to take it, you know. And so, you know, Kent, he rode him great. And when the horse made his move, he wanted to go. That's the way he won the Derby. That's the way he won the Preakness, you know. So he just got beat today, and that's it.
It makes it tough because you get, you know, how many opportunities in a lifetime could you ever imagine being in a situation? I think that, you know, my eyes were wide open, and I've been living in a dream, and just to come so far and fall such a smidget short, it makes it very difficult. I don't know that I'll ever be talking to you about this again, but hopefully we'll be back again in the same situation very, very soon.
Kent DeSarmo on Real Quiet, beaten by Victory Gallop by a nose. It was not nearly so close in the playoffs tonight. Let's go back up to Chicago to talk to Steve Kerr for a moment because he came off the bench, hit some of those amazing threes. And Steve, I know you guys never thought about a 42-point victory tonight.
It's amazing, isn't it? We had no idea that this was possible. We're playing against a great team, and somehow they just collapsed tonight. We played very well, but they had an awful night, and I doubt we'll see another one like this.
Steve, just as a reminder, you know, no team has ever scored so few points as they did tonight. But this happened to them against the Jazz, and they came right back and won the next game, and I'm sure that you all will not have a letdown.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I remember that they did the same thing in San Antonio, and they came back and won the next game. So, you know, they're right in this series. Everybody's going to, you know, write them off. But as Danny Ainge once said, it's not the Tour de France. You know, you started right up again. It's 2-1. we're not keeping a running total. So they're right in the series. They could still get a win here and be right back in it.
Steve, I just wanted to get a chance to visit with you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead and enjoy the night tonight.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Steve Kerr, the man that has ice water in his veins with his three-pointers. Our Prime Star Play of the Week features a record performance at the College World Series and the return of the U.S. women to the top of the basketball world. First of all, we take you over to the United States in red versus Russia, the Women's World Basketball Championship. Lisa Leslie, 20 points, 11 rebounds. USA beats Russia 71-65. And in Omaha, Nebraska, Southern California versus Arizona State, Jason Lane with a Grand Slam home run. He gets our Prime Star Play of the Week.
That was close. There's only one television service people feel this good about. Prime Star Satellite TV, ranked #1 in customer satisfaction. Call 1-800-PRIME-STAR or visit Radio Shack now for special savings.
I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do.
It's what you want.
And you're going to the Stanley Cup Final.
It's Cinderella story.
I mean, is this not just special in your life?
You know, eventually, I mean, if you keep working hard like this, it's going to go in. And
the Washington Capitals, for the first time in their 20...
NBC4 salutes the Washington Capitals. We're rooting for you.
With Bell Atlantic Mobile, you can make important calls from just about everywhere, like the "Let's get together" call or the "I have a flat tire" call.
Just checking.
That's because everything we do is for one reason. That moment when you make the "I need to check with the office" call.
Do you have any idea?
No.
When are you going to be here?
We should be back around 2. Okay.
Your call goes through. A cell phone is only as good as the network it's on. Choose Bell Atlantic Mobile.
Welcome back to the Sports Machine. So what's new about an aging boxer trying to stage a comeback? In the case of Buster Douglas, it's less about his ego and more about his survival. It's dawn in Marco Island, Florida. Dawn, a perfect time for a hard workout. 38-year-old James Buster Douglas, working as hard as he's ever worked. Each bead of sweat, a sign of his appreciation to be alive. For it was just 4 years ago that the former heavyweight champion of the world, Buster Douglas, nearly died in a diabetic coma. You were in a diabetic coma, as I recall, it was 1994, wasn't it?
Right.
And you almost died in that coma.
That's right. Face death, man. But I'm back.
It's been more than 8 years since James Buster Douglas, a 42-1 underdog, challenged the unbeaten Mike Tyson. On that incredible night of February the 10th in Tokyo, Japan, in the 10th round, the 29-year-old Douglas unleashed a flurry that floored the unbeaten champion. It stunned the sports world. Buster Douglas' victory has been called one of the greatest upsets in the history of boxing. The 42-1 underdog had dethroned the unbeaten and unbeatable champion. But just before the fight, Buster's mother, Lula Pearl, had died of a stroke. The death of his mother greatly tempered his joy of victory.
If your mom could look down and talk to you today, what would she say about all that's going on in her son's life?
She'd be amazed. You know, she'd really be amazed. You know, yeah. I miss her.
But Buster Douglas was not prepared for becoming an instant celebrity. All of America wanted a piece of this real-life Rocky. He was celebrated as the people's champion in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio. But he was reluctant to accept the praise. For with his mother's death, he was lost without his best friend. But Buster Douglas signed a $24 million deal to defend his title against Evander Holyfield. But Douglas was a man confused by his fame, indulgent in his own good fortune. In fact, he was not at all ready for that fight.
I didn't think about times my friend and I were driving to the arena for the fight, you know, where I was mentally, you know, 1,000,000 miles away. You know, here was an opportunity to, you know, defend one of the most coveted titles in the world, and my thoughts weren't even, you know, in the same arena.
October 25th, 1990. The beginning of the end for Buster Douglas. He's battling Evander. He never got up. His descent into personal hell had begun. Buster Douglas retired to Florida. His once well-trained body ballooned to a weight of 400 pounds. In July of '94, he was rushed to the hospital. He slipped into a diabetic coma. For 4 days, he drifted near death.
Then I just came out of it. You know, and I was in the hospital, in a room, private room. And then that's when all the doctors were coming in, you know, looking at me, shaking their head like, I can't believe this. And, you know, like, look, man, you know, you've done, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, look, just release me. I know what I got to do. I mean, it's like I didn't hit the wall. I didn't know. There's nowhere up. There's nowhere to go but up from this point.
After his release from the hospital, he began a crusade to regain his health and self-respect. But as he trained, more people reminded him of how he had thrown everything away. Buster Douglas was determined to come all the way back.
The more I heard about it, you know, the more upset I was getting, you know, and the more that the fire was, you know, that I kept trying to put out, it was just raging, you know, it was just started just raging. And, you know, determination just went from there.
His dedication to training trimmed his weight from 400 pounds to 240, his fighting weight. And as he lost the weight, he surprisingly became stronger. In July of 1996, nearly 6 years after losing to Holyfield, Buster Douglas began his comeback. He's a perfect 6-0. His next fight is a pay-per-view fight against Lou Savarese. The comeback trail is a long one.
We've came from a long way from a, you know, laughing stock in the beginning, like, yeah, you know, John, sure, here he's coming back, you know, ba-boom, ba-bam, you know, to creating, you know, meaningful bouts in the future. So, you know, we've come a long way, but yet we have a long way to go.
Buster Douglas's 1990 upset of Mike Tyson gave him a place in boxing history. But his recent comeback has given him something more valuable: his good health and his self-respect. Out of time. We'll see you all next Sunday night, everybody.